Good evening, everyone, and welcome to In the Know with CaT Bobino. Today we have a very special guest, which is astronaut Winston Scott. Welcome to the show.
Well, thank you. It's good to be with you, CaT.
Awesome. I am truly blessed to have met you. We met virtually a week ago, but you had a lot of great things that you said, and I wanted to quickly grab you, get you on the podcast, and get to talking to you. So, I guess the first thing we should discuss is being an astronaut. How did that happen?
Well, it happened for me through the U.S. Navy. See, I graduated from college, obviously, and then went on to active duty as a naval aviator, went through flight training. And for some people in the audience, it's going to seem like a long time ago, but it was in 1973. And I was designated a naval aviator in 1974. For people who don't know, the Navy has airplanes and the Navy operates from ships at sea. For those of you who are familiar with the movie series Top Gun with Tom Cruise, well, that's about the U.S. Navy, Naval Aviators. Well, those people on the movies are actors. I was a real U.S. Navy Top Gun. That's what I did in the Navy. Then I got into research, development, testing, evaluation. So I got into the scientific side of flying where we were developing new aircraft systems. And then I applied and was accepted by NASA for astronaut training and subsequently flew 2 space shuttle missions. So I flew for 9 days on the Space Shuttle Endeavour and then 16 days on the Space Shuttle Columbia. So the question about how did I get to become an astronaut? Well, a lot of astronauts still come from the military. All the pilots come from the military. Now, scientists, for the audience, do not have to come from the military. So if you want to be an astronaut, you don't have to be military. But the pilots all still come from the military. So that's kind of how I got into it.
Okay. So you were a pilot, which a lot of people don't realize. Yes, you can do science, you can do piloting, and then there's other aspects of being an astronaut. There's no one direction, right? So what made you decide to go into the Navy, and into flying for them?
Well, I was thinking about continuing my engineering education as a young man, and it occurred to me that the military provides educational opportunities for people, and thought about going to the military. And I thought to myself, well, what would I do? Well, aviation seemed cool. I mean, I wasn't a pilot. I've only been on an airliner twice. Like, I thought about military aviation, that it might be a good thing for me to do. So I applied to the Air Force and to the Navy at the same time. The Navy responded first. So I wound up in the Navy as a naval aviator. And for those who don't know, the majority of astronauts actually come from the Navy. That's right.
I did not
People assume otherwise. No, the majority actually come from the Navy. Some other trivia things that Marine Corps pilots are really naval aviators. Coast Guard pilots are naval aviators. So the Navy is very, very prominent. And so anyway, that's kind of how it happened for me. It was a little bit unguided, meaning that I did not have mentors in those days to sit down and talk with. I sort of did things intuitively, going into the military and things like that. Yeah, I didn't have any counseling. I just decided that might be a good thing doing. It felt right for me down here. And the more I pursued it, the more right it felt. And as they say, the rest is history.
Wow. Yeah. So I just want to throw out, my brother wanted to fly too. He actually went to the Navy and became a helicopter pilot. And so he flew helicopters. But yes, the Navy has all kinds of pilots flying all the aircraft.
Absolutely.
You just don't think about it because you're thinking Navy.
That's right. And also, I was helicopter qualified too. See, the Navy trains everybody in airplanes. So your brother was trained in fixed wing airplanes too. And then he probably went to specialize in helicopters. And so did I. But then I went back to fixed wing airplanes and flew fighters the rest of my career. But I also flew helicopters. So I was all Navy helicopter pilots are both helicopter and fixed wing piloting. Now,
Okay.
not to digress too much, but what did your brother fly? Was he East Coast, West Coast, or what? Do you know?
Woo, that is a very good question. What I do know is that he flew. Oh my goodness, cargo
Okay,
helicopter.
well, there must have been the SH-60s, I guess, or probably SH-60s. Anyway, that's,
Probably.
uh,
I know he flew those, and he was actually stationed out of the country for a year when he did it. And so, yeah, I don't know exactly
that's,
all the stuff he flew, but I do know it was
that's
helicopters.
okay.
Now
I
he's
hope one of these days I get to meet him. We can talk some airplanes.
of course he's now he's a pilot for an actual
Airline,
airline.
yes, indeed.
So now he
And
yeah.
see,
So
and that's my point. See, he was a helicopter pilot, but now he's flying a jet for an airline. So he was already
mhm.
fixed to wing, qualified, as we say, and helicopters on top of that. So that's good. Good for him. All right.
Good I'm gonna tell him you said you want to talk to him.
Absolutely.
But we're live. We're live on
Mhm.
Facebook and YouTube, and we get questions from the audience. We have one question now already, which is how long did you serve as a Navy aviator before you transitioned to focusing on the science side of being an astronaut?
Yes, I was what we call an operational pilot, meaning I was preparing for war, for combat for 12 years. Then I became what they call an aerospace engineering officer. I went in to be a test pilot for the next 6 years. And then at the 18-year mark is when I was selected by NASA for astronaut training. And I spent another 8 years on active duty. So I spent a total of 27 years on active duty. The last 7 were with NASA as an astronaut. So 12 years operational means I'm ready for combat. And then research, development,
Mm-hmm.
testing, evaluation, then 7 years as an active astronaut.
Wow, that's and I'm assuming this, so correct me if I'm wrong. But did you go to college first and then the
Yes.
Navy, or did you go to
No, no,
Navy?
no. You college
Okay,
first.
so you went to officer
All
school.
military pilots are college graduates. You have to be a college graduate.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing with the airlines. You have to be a college graduate to be a pilot for a major airline. So, absolutely, college 1st. Mhm.
Right. So then you went. I'm sorry. When you went to officer
That's
school
right.
because you had already
I went
did.
to college
Mhm.
first. Then I went into the Navy had aviation officer candidate school. So all the pilots went to a special candidate school that was just for them. So aviation officer candidate
Mhm.
school, and then I was designated naval aviator, commissioned officer, and starting my career. That's correct.
Oh
Uh,
wow. Okay. So then, what did you go to college
well,
for?
it's interesting because when I went to college, I originally went to study music. I was a musician. That's
Oh,
right. When I was
okay.
growing up as a youngster, again, in those days, in the Black community, we didn't have STEM programs like the one you and I participating on. We didn't have anybody in my
Yes.
neighborhood to tell us about engineering and physics and so on. So I was
Hmm.
a very, very good musician. And I went to school actually studying music. My band director in high school actually made a phone call to Florida State University dean's office, and they accepted me to the College of Music. No audition or anything. So I enrolled in FSU as a music major and continued my music, and then discovered engineering and started taking music and engineering at the same time. In those days, you could pay one tuition fee and take as many hours as you wanted. Unlike today, when you pay by the hour. Back then, you could pay one
Yes. Yes.
tuition and take as many hours as you wanted. 18 was an overload, but I would get special permission from my advisor. So I was taking 21 hours a quarter because I was taking all the science and math on top of my music theory. So actually have a college degree in music, and then I have a college degree in aeronautical engineering. And I'm professor of aeronautics at Florida Tech, and also a professor of music because I did both. So again, long answer to a short question. I went to school to study music, discovered engineering, then pursued engineering and aviation.
Wow. And now that's one of the things that I like to implore people, especially young people, is just being open minded. Yeah,
Absolutely.
you can go to school for whatever you want to go to school
Absolutely.
for, but just being open minded to other classes, other programs that you didn't know
That's right.
existed. but you might fall in
That's
love
right.
with.
And don't limit yourself to doing one thing. You may have one primary career because obviously you have to eat. But that doesn't mean you can't
Right.
participate in other activities. If you want to be a doctor and a writer, be a doctor and a writer. If you want to be a nurse and a dancer, be
Absolutely.
both. If you want to be an artist and a teacher, be both. Life is
Be
short.
both.
Be well-rounded, broad, and develop many different skills. You enjoy life so much more. And you know what? It's not unusual that people who do mathematical or scientific things are also musicians. It's not unusual
Hmm.
at all. And in fact, Albert Einstein played violin. You know, they may not know that.
Yeah.
John Glenn, the
Yeah.
first American in orbit, played trumpet in the high school band. We had an astronaut band, and so the list goes on and on and on. In fact, I was just watching Star Trek. Mr. Spock played Vulcan harp.
Yes, yes. I mean, I totally agree. You know, going into science, I always say going into math. If you're really into math, you're probably really into music
Absolutely.
too, because they go
They
hand
go
in
hand in
hand
hand.
all
That's
the.
right.
And we got a couple comments, which is Shalia says, "Wow, thank you for your
Thank you.
service." And Soshi just says, "Hi, Soshi." But yeah, always just being open minded, and music doesn't mean you can't do science, can't do math, or vice
That's right.
versa. And I totally agree. Like, you get one
That's
life,
right. Exactly.
you don't have to just one thing, nothing else. Boom, boom, boom. Just be open. Just try.
Absolutely. So, do we not have any other questions? I'll keep talking until somebody asks.
Oh, no. I
Oh,
have
okay. All right.
questions. Everyone else can ask questions as they
Uh-huh.
choose. But so we talked about you going to college, which was music, but then you turned into aerospace engineering,
Yes.
right? So what was it? I know you had to start with just a regular engineering, math, physics classes, but what made you go into aerospace engineering? What was the draw for that?
As I think back on it, I was first obviously you take your all your math classes and your basic engineering classes, and I was originally thinking of electrical or electronics because I was always interested in electrical things as a boy. I was playing with batteries and motors and light bulbs. But then during my Navy career, I was in aviation as a pilot. So I think that because I was already in aviation, I thought aeronautical engineering would be the place for me, which has to do with
Mhm.
obviously airplanes and things that fly. But my aeronautical engineering master's, when I got to the master's program, my degree is actually aeronautical engineering with avionics, which means I had a lot of electrical engineering, kind of like a
Mhm.
minor in engineering. So I combined the two. But after thinking about it, yeah, I thought the performance of the vehicle itself would be interesting to me. So again, aeronautical engineering, then put in the electrical part of it, which we call avionics or aviation electronics. So again,
Mhm.
it's that broad area where you do more than one thing. You put it together and not just
Right.
specialize in one particular area.
Right. Absolutely. And then, so from there, going into the Navy, flying the planes, being a real life Top Gun, right?
That's
What
right.
made you decide, oh, I'm flying all these fast planes, all of this stuff. I want to transition to something that's not going straight, but going up.
Well, again, I was interested in the scientific side of flying. I mean, I liked the combat training too. I did not, I don't have any actual combat because when I came in, it was the tail end of our Vietnam War. So
Mhm.
Vietnam was winding down as I was going through training. And by the time the next war came around, I was a Desert Storm. I was on the way down to NASA for astronaut training. So I enjoyed the combat training. Shooting bullets and missiles and all that stuff was fun. But I was always intrigued by the scientific side of flying because you're doing things that have never been done before, and that's what
Mhm.
always appealed to me. So that's what prompted me to get over into aerospace engineering and then testing, evaluation, flying, and then the astronaut program. Because what we do when we fly in space is obviously we fly, but
Mhm.
we fly doing things that haven't been done before, breaking new grounds. You're doing new experiments. You're trying new equipment, new techniques, new procedures. So I'm all about doing things that have not been done before. And interestingly enough, that plays into my music because my favorite form of music is jazz. And when you play jazz, it's all about improvisation, which means you're playing something that's never been played before. And no matter how many times you play it, it's not going to be the exact same thing each time. So I'm all
Hmm.
about the improvisation in no matter what I do.
Wow, that's awesome. Um, I know that once you went and became an astronaut, did the astronaut training, you were what is called a mission specialist. So, what
Yes.
is a mission specialist in NASA
Yeah.
terms?
There are a couple of categories of astronaut. There are the full-time NASA astronauts are the pilot astronauts or mission specialist astronaut. A pilot astronaut is a person that obviously they fly the vehicle. That's what they do.
Mm-hmm.
A mission specialist is usually a scientist astronaut, the person that does the science. Okay, but you can sometimes be both because I'm a pilot by background. I was a mission specialist, but I was also part of the flight deck crew, the people that actually flew the vehicle. So I was a flight engineer. I was fully trained in operating and flying the space shuttle, but my main job was spacewalking. So I got to put the suit on and go outside and work outside. So that was my main job. And that's the thing that everybody wants to do. So over my 2 missions, I actually did 3 spacewalks. And in those days, we were preparing to build the International Space Station. I think everybody in the audience knows the space station up there. And it's been up there for a little over 20 years. Well, in my time, we were preparing to build it. So I went outside on spacewalks and tested different tools, equipment, techniques, and so on, like astronauts later use to actually assemble the International Space Station. So again, pilots and mission specialists are full-time, fully trained NASA astronauts. You also have a
Mm-hmm.
category of astronaut called a payload specialist. A payload
Mm-hmm.
specialist is kind of like a guest astronaut. For example, a payload specialist may come from a university and they're specialists
Mm-hmm.
in one particular area. They learn just enough to fly up into space and do that experiment. Then when they come back, they go back to their university or their company or whatever. They're not a
Right.
full-time NASA astronaut. Nowadays,
Wow.
of course, we have other categories of astronauts. We have tourists going into space.
Yes.
and,
Yes.
and technically, they're astronauts, but I think we're going to have to start rethinking the definition of astronaut pretty soon.
Well, thank you for that explanation because I knew there were different aspects of being an astronaut, different jobs, different titles, but I didn't know the breakdown of what they did, which is amazing. And then number two, so there's a virtual reality thing right now. It's in the Bay Area. It's going to leave soon or next month, but it is the Infinite Space Explorers. And you put on this VR headset, you get to see actual footage from the International Space Station and people doing spacewalks. And it's so on that, we're seeing people doing spacewalks that's attached to the International Space Station or maybe fixing something or whatever, but you
Yes.
did it before the International Space Station went up there. So you were
Yes.
just testing tools on the rocket that you were on the ship?
The space shuttle. I would exit and go outside of the space shuttle. So I'd work outside of the vehicle. And you're right. I was testing doing all kinds of stuff outside. But instead of outside of a big station, I was outside of the space shuttle. That's right.
Oh my God. And
Mhm.
I mean, how? I mean, I would be afraid personally. I don't think I want to go to space even as a tourist, but to be outside of a shuttle being the tester, and that's something new, right? That was kind of new at that time is doing spacewalk. How did you feel about that? How was that for you?
Well, I wanted to do a spacewalk because that is probably the most challenging, demanding thing that we do in space. I was very fortunate to do because everybody doesn't get to do a spacewalk, and that's
Yeah.
kind of what everybody wants to do.
Yeah.
And it is challenging. It's not for the faint at heart. But I actually wanted to do that because it's kind of like, every job is important, obviously, in space, but kind of the elite, I think, is the ultimate you can do is spacewalk. Actually, put the
Mhm.
suit on and work outside. That's just kind of the most challenging thing I think that we can do in space. So I was very, fortunate that they assigned me to do spacewalks, and I got to do that. So,
But how did you feel? Like, how did you feel? I know. Let me rewind. William Shatner went up as a tourist astronaut, and the quiet, I think, really freaked him out. There's no music. There's no nothing. You're just in a void of quiet. So he didn't like it. But how did it make you feel being in that void, doing something not everyone gets an opportunity to do?
Well, again, as much as I admire William Shatner and what he did, he can really go into space. I mean, he kind of went up what we call someone came right back
Yeah.
down again. And
Yes.
I appreciate that, and I appreciate what he has done as a result of that. How he has really promoted and help us move space tourism forward. But what he did can't compare to what we did. Actually living in orbit and working up
Yeah.
there. And you said the void and the quiet. You're not so much quiet because on our flights, we're busy. We have work to do. He was a tourist. He just floated around and came
Yeah.
back down. We had a job to do.
Right.
So we were busy up there. We had a timeline that we had to keep every day. We had experiments to do. We had housekeeping. We had to eat, sleep, live. We had to try new things. We had to handle situations. So we were busy the whole time we were up there. Almost never, well, not almost, but there's never a dull moment, almost no idle time, because we went up to do a
Mm.
job. So we were busy
Yeah.
from the time you launch to the time you come home. So it's a little different situation. But you asked me how it feels, and there are no words that I can say to make you feel it because it's so foreign to anything you've experienced here. You've never ridden anything that goes 17,500 miles per hour, and you've never
Nope.
been in continuous weightlessness. So I can try and describe it for you, but the words just don't do it justice. Continuous weightlessness is fun in a way because you float, you fly everywhere you need to go. You can't walk. You push yourself
Yeah.
off and you float across the room, and then you stop yourself and you do fun things that turn somersaults and flips and all. But it's also uncomfortable. Your body has to get used to being up there. We weren't meant to live at zero gravity, so you
Right.
adjust to it. And once you adjust, then you begin to feel normal. But then you have to execute all of your duties and your jobs in that zero gravity environment. So it's fun in a way, but it's also uncomfortable. You got to get used to it, and you have to get used to getting back. You readapt to Earth, to gravity when you return from space. Your body goes through a readaptation process. So it's just so different. And seeing the Earth and the moon, the sun, the planets, the stars, the constellations, everything from space is a totally different perspective than you get from up here. Just totally different, and kind of a life-changing experience seeing things from up there.
Oh, I'm sure. I am definitely sure. So Shalia says or asks, I remember going to space camp in Huntsville, Alabama, which I did too. As a child, it was awesome and memorable. Do you think that interest in STEM can be very peaked at a young age and then groomed from there?
Oh, absolutely. In fact, I think the best time to catch young people, to catch people in generating interest in STEM is when they are young. It needs to start very, very early, elementary. In fact, research
Mhm.
has shown that we don't catch students by the time they reach middle school, then we may have lost them. It's hard to pique their
Right.
interest, but yeah, it should start very, very early, and then we can certainly generate an interest in STEM. And I think. Generating an interest in STEM at early age has to be hands-on. When the kids are young, say second grade, third grade, they need to be doing something, building things and
Yeah.
doing it as opposed to a lot of theory. The theory can come later, but you catch them early and catch them by doing stuff. I think, CaT, that's what you do with a lot of your work. You actually in the schools with the kids and you have them doing stuff, and that is the fun and the interesting part of it.
Yes, I try, trying to, I mean, that's a whole nother story. These schools out here trying to get work with them, that's a whole nother topic. But, and everyone who's listening and people who know me know that I have a son who's 2. And so Shalia said she did end up working in STEM and healthcare, but my son is her favorite little scientist. And I try to get him doing little things, playing with sand, playing with, not electricity in a way, but in electricity and just getting his hands in things and being like, it's okay
Exactly.
to mess up. It's okay
Exactly.
to, keep going. That's all it is. You mess up, you keep going. I've
You
had
keep going.
people like, oh, he's making a mess. And I'm like, okay, we can clean up a mess. That's fine,
You get up.
he's
That's
learning.
right. And,
But I
and two is
Mhm.
and two is quite young. As he gets older, he can do progressively more things because eventually you have toys with maybe batteries. Then he'll learn how you put batteries in something to make it work. Well, the batteries produce electricity. You turn the switch and the light comes on. Well, the batteries are so as he grows older, he can do more and more things. There's things with experiments with water he can do with
Mhm.
boats and with cars and kites, flying a kite, or there's no limit to the things that can pique a student's interest in STEM.
Yeah, there's so many things. I have kits and robotics and a 3D printer, all the stuff that I want him to do, but
Right.
he's too young. So, part of me is like, grow up so we can play with the science toys. But the other part is, don't grow up yet because I like you as my little one and I don't want you to grow up.
They grow
So
up fast.
I know. So Alana asks, what is the biggest challenges about doing a spacewalk?
Well, the entire process is challenging. It physically speaking is challenging because the spacesuit itself is so massive. It weighs about 350 pounds on Earth. So in
Mhm.
space, even though it floats, it doesn't weigh anything. You still have the 350 pounds of mass that, in addition to your body mass and your tools, that you're moving. So you move about in space, and you move using your hands from hand to hand. You're moving 500 or 600 pounds of mass from place to place. So physically speaking, it's the most demanding thing that we do. And quite often in space, you may be moving thousands of pounds of mass. So and then there's more to it than just putting the suit on and moving around. You have to understand the suit. It is a serious piece of engineering, and you need to understand how the suit works, how its electrical system works, the lithium hydroxide canisters, the primary oxygen, secondary oxygen, the computer on the front of the suit controlling it. Because remember, the suit is your life support. You couldn't live without it. If something goes wrong, then you have to be able to troubleshoot it and do what you can to keep yourself alive. So you have to study the suit and understand the suit as well as being able to operate the suit. The suit is just like being in a spaceship itself or being in an aircraft. When I was flying airplanes in the Navy, even now I still fly now. You don't just get in and fly. You understand it. You study it. You know every nut and bolt, every system, the hydraulic system, electrical system, electronic system, the fire control system, the landing gear
Mhm.
system, the hydraulics, the pneumatics, the navigation. You know all that stuff, and you know every detail. So back to the challenge of walking in space. Physically, it's very demanding, and then mentally and academically, it takes a lot of study and a lot of preparation. Also, I think it's not for everybody because it's one thing to watch it on TV, but when you're outside in reality, this is real. This is not some game.
Mhm.
You're outside in space, flying over Earth at 17,500 miles per hour. You and your buddy. We always go outside in a pair
Mhm.
because people inside can't help you. You're on your own. If something goes wrong, the two of you on your own, they can't help you at all. So it's a somewhat hazardous environment, but that's part of the challenge that I liked about it, and that's why I wanted to be a spacewalker, and why I'm just very glad I did get that opportunity.
Wow. Whew, yep, again, not for me. I don't think I would want to do that. Um, and like what I'm about to say does not even compare. But I know doing space camp in Huntsville when I was a teenager, you're submerged. I don't remember how many feet in water, and you get to pick up a nice big metal ball that weighs a ton, but you're underwater. So, you can pick it up pretty much with ease, kind of toss
Right.
it to each other, which is amazing. But I know it does not compare to putting on the suit, knowing the suit, and being out in space. And
Well,
space is dark, right? Like we think it's all bright with all the stars, but it's dark.
space is dark, but now remember, we orbit the Earth. And when we're in orbit, we go around the Earth every 90 minutes. So when you're
Mhm.
on the light side of the Earth, you got the sun shining directly on you. It can be very, very hot, and you get some bright from the sunlight. So the space itself is still dark, but you get direct sun. It's different from here on Earth. I wish I could make you see it. On Earth, everything is bright during the daytime because the air diffuses the light. So the sky
Right.
is all bright blue. All your surroundings are bright. In space, if the sun is shining directly on something, it's bright. Otherwise, it's dark. Then on the dark side of the Earth, everything is dark. And of course, we have to turn on lights outside of the space
Mhm.
shuttle. I have lights on my suit to turn on my helmet. I've got lights up here on the helmet I can turn on to light up the area where I'm working. So yes, to all of the above. It's both dark and it's light. It's both hot and it's cold, and it's just a truly different and amazing place to be.
Yes. Well, I hope, the next generation who is listening, who want to be an astronaut, want to do this, good luck with all of it. I will stay on the Earth. I'll just catch planes where I need to go, but I am going to stay right here on Earth, which is my
Uh,
so how long were you an astronaut?
well, I was an active astronaut for 7 years, between 92 and 99. Hmm.
Okay. And so after that, what did you do after being an astronaut?
Well, back up. Even though I've done a lot of different formal jobs since then, my astronaut experience has always dominated my life. So you never really stop being an astronaut, with the exception of actually training and flying in space. My day-to-day life, even now, is just dominated by my space experience. So back to the original question, when I first left active astronaut duty, I went back to my alma mater, Florida State University, as a vice president. And I did that for a while. And then I directed what's called the Florida Space Authority. So several states around the country have space authorities. California has one, as a matter of fact.
Mhm.
Texas has one. New Mexico. So the private commercial flights that you see going up, the space authorities typically oversee those. So I directed the Florida Space Authority for a while, and then worked in private industry. And then for the last 15 years or so, I've been at Florida Institute of Technology in Melbourne, Florida. I first started out as dean of the College of Aeronautics, and then senior vice president at the university.
Mm.
So
Okay.
done a number of things formally since I've left active astronaut duty.
Wow. And so I know that being an astronaut is domineering of everything that you have done, but going back to your schools, going back to Florida, doing all the work that you're doing with them with those programs, what do you think is the highlight of doing that work, being more in the dean aspect or the professor aspect?
Oh, the highlight definitely is working with students, working with young people. In my case, it's university students all day long. And then at other times, I work with high school and elementary and so on. But yeah, being in the academic environment with students has been so rewarding for me. As a matter of fact, we get ready to have homecoming at Florida Tech soon. I'm one of the keynote presenters at homecoming during the homecoming weekend, because at our university, engineering, everybody wants to be in the space program. So I'm going to do that. And the list just goes on and on and on. But working with young people is really rewarding for me. Like you're doing, again, you want to prepare the young generation for careers in STEM, want to inspire them to go forward. So that's really the most rewarding part of it.
That's so amazing. And you said you still fly, right? So
Mhm.
you fly your own plane,
Mhm.
commercial plane?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
What kind
Fly
of
my
plane
own
is it?
plane. Yeah, most of our travel, my wife travels with me a lot. I travel quite a bit, and most of it I fly myself. I don't have to go to the airlines or whatever. So still fly regularly and enjoy it. And like I said, again, most of my travel I fly myself. We have a very nice airplane that's a good traveling plane that we can go
Okay.
places in it. So, mhm.
Is it national that you can go or international?
No, it's just national. Yeah, anything international, I take an airliner. Yeah,
Okay.
but
Obviously, I know nothing about aeronautics, but
oh,
yeah.
that's okay. Yeah, because it's not a jet; it's a single-engine, propeller-driven airplane. But it's a
Okay.
relatively fast. It holds six people, so
Oh, wow.
you can see the size of it. It's good to travel in. It's a six-place airplane,
Mhm.
so it's decent traveling. And I live in Florida, for example. So if I wanted to go to Washington D.C., the airport is about 10 minutes from my house. I could take off from the airport in about 4 hours, 4.5 hours. I'm landing in Washington, D.C. Now, if I were to come to California, where you are, that's a little bit further. I'd probably take an airliner then. Okay,
Okay.
I need a jet to get there. Otherwise, in my airplane, it'd take me probably 2 days to do it comfortably. So that gives
Wow.
you some perspective. If I'm going to go to Houston, which I do, I can go to Houston in 5-6 hours or something like that from South Florida. Everything is trade-offs, but it's a good traveling plane.
Well, I'm sure it is, and to be able to fly yourself, though, you don't have to go through the lines and
That's right.
all that good things. You get to just travel on your own. That's amazing.
Absolutely. I'm my own TSA. If I
I
want
mean,
to pull my shoes off, I don't have to pull them off.
do you take other people? See, I can get on that. I won't get on a rocket or a shuttle, but I can get on a plane.
Well, I've taken other people. I mean, not just a matter of course, but on occasion I've had other people travel with me. Let's say my wife and I usually travel together or by
Right.
myself, but occasionally we have other people who travel with us. Yeah, we sure have.
Okay.
And I've also done flights for children. We have a program called Young Eagles, where those of us who are pilots, we volunteer on the weekends and we take kids up to introduce them to STEM. The flying is used to get them interested in STEM. So I've done the Young Eagles programs, and I also have participated in what's called Angel Flight for people who have medical needs and maybe they need transportation from one place to another for medical procedures. And the airport is too cumbersome. I participate in that program where you go pick them up and fly them to their medical facility. So those are the kind of things I've done over the years, in addition to my own private flying.
That's amazing. That's
Mhm.
amazing. I couldn't tell you if that program is out here because I have no idea about it. I'm actually very afraid of flying. I do it because it's the
Ah,
fastest way to get somewhere,
uh.
but I am afraid of flying.
You should take a couple of flying lessons with an instructor. Kind of get over the city, get over that fear. You probably fall in love with it. I do know
Well,
that there are a lot
that's
of
low on the bucket list.
I do that there are a lot of course, flying programs that all over the country and also in California for introducing kids to flying. The Experimental Aircraft Association, EAA, runs the Young Eagles program. And I also know that there's a program that's specifically aimed at minority youth in Compton, California, because my son was visiting with them a week ago. Well, this program is aimed specifically at minority youth in Compton to get them interested in STEM. And the pilots out there will have some ground schooling to take the kids flying to sort of get them interested. And I'm sure there's some up in your area as well.
I'm sure there is. I
Oh,
just
yeah.
wouldn't know. So, don't want to ask me about it, but yes. Okay, so we have a question, two questions. So Flora asks, is there anything specific that keeps your curiosity or passion alive for space travel?
Yes, you say specific, but I would say in general, my curiosity is always alive for space travel. What we're doing right now, when I say we, I mean what NASA is up to right now, of course, is getting ready to return people to the moon. And your listeners
Mhm.
may know this, but the new Artemis program will put people back on the moon. So we just had the first uncrewed Artemis flight before the holidays, and the next one is coming up here. Let's see, this is 23, 20, yeah, I can't remember, it was 23 or 24, with people on it. They won't
Yes.
go to the surface. And then
Mhm.
after that, somewhere out in 25 time frame, we'll send people and then put them on the surface. So I'm certainly interested in that, following that. And also I follow what's going on in the International Space Station. And I'm involved in those things from a public relations standpoint mainly, and presentations. And I'm back and forth to the Space Center all the time. But my
Okay.
involvement now is with presentations and public relations, and also Astronaut Memorial Foundation, Astronaut Scholarship Foundation, and so on. And then again, I stay interested in general. There's no one specific thing that keeps me interested. It's just the overall program that I'm involved in, and I like to see it continue to grow and expand. And that's that's where it is.
Okay. Um, was there any moments in your adolescence that solidify your decision to do something as dangerous as space travel?
No, because again, in my adolescence, I didn't think it was a reality to me. It was, the space program was interesting. I sort of followed it on TV. I watched the rocket launches, and we talk about them a little bit in school, and I'd read the magazines. I watched Star Trek on TV and stuff like that. I didn't think it
Mm-hmm.
was anything I could do. It was so foreign. Yeah, it didn't know. So, but I think maybe the seed was planted in the back of my mind as a youngster. And then when I hit college, had like say halfway through my college career in discovering engineering, that some water was poured on that seed and it fertilizing, it began to blossom. I can remember my fifth grade teacher, fifth and sixth grade teacher, Mr. Clark, Mr. Franklin Clark. I was in accelerated math and English. They didn't call it AB or IB back then. It was just accelerated math. Well, Mr.
Mm-hmm.
Clark would talk to us about the space program and space travel and so on. And maybe he planted a seed in the back of my mind there someplace. But at that time, I never thought it was reality. And I was a kid. I loved airplane TV shows and airplane movies and model airplanes and stuff like that. But it just didn't think it was a reality for me until later on.
Wow. Okay. All right. So I don't know if I ever mentioned to you, but because we're live, you have the option of sharing your screen. The next question is, do you happen to have any photos or artifacts from your work as an astronaut that you might be willing to share?
Yeah, but I can now, if I can pull any of that stuff up without destroying what we've already done. Let me see. Yeah, see, we didn't plan for this. Let me minimize.
No, I did not mention to you. My apologies, but yes, you can share your screen. You can share whatever you would like. But
yeah, let me see. You're gonna have to talk me through. Sure, hold on.
okay,
I'm opening something up here.
okay,
And give me just a second.
no problem, no problem at
Now,
all.
okay, how do I share? I should have a menu down here. I can pull it up and hit
Right
share.
at the bottom, it should look like a little box with an arrow pointing up. So that's your share screen.
I don't see that. Not at the
Okay,
bottom, and I'm looking at the top.
so you know where you can mute and then
I,
you can disable your camera.
I see that, and next to that is a circle that says new. But
Okay, can
okay, I
you?
see it. Share screen. Okay.
Mhm.
All right, now I hit that, and it says
And
open system preferences. I don't want to do that, do I?
no, it should be saying, it should ask if you want to share your entire screen, a window, but
Uh, I see Chrome tab or wait a minute, share tab audio
yeah, you can
or
share your
cancel
tab.
share. Oh, entire screen. Is that what I want?
You can I would say your tab probably, or you can do your screen. We could try either way.
Okay, I hit share entire screen.
Okay.
And then do I hit share at the bottom?
Yes.
Are you seeing?
No, not yet.
Okay. I don't want to take up too much time with this, but okay. Share screen now. It says entire screen, share or cancel.
DJ says, "What a cool guest." Thank you, DJ. Um,
So he can't get a screen.
well, you can always email it to me if you want. I can also open it.
Well, you won't be able to open because what I wanted to show you is it's too big.
Okay.
It's too
Okay.
large. Yeah. Well, I
All
tell you
right.
what. I wish we could do that, but perhaps maybe another time we can we can.
Sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely. We can do that at another time. So, Shalia, we will
Mhm.
talk to Winston on our own. Now, if everybody wants to see it, we could do this again. I'm sure you got more things that you could talk to us about. But
Absolutely.
yeah, but it's really cool that going back to all the things that you have accomplished. So to reiterate, you went to school for music, fell
Yes.
in love with engineering,
Hmm.
did aeronautic engineering, went to the Navy, became a Top Gun pilot, flying all the big planes, fast
Yes.
planes, doing combat, going into NASA, being one of few people who get to do spacewalks.
Yes.
And then once you left that program, you went to be a dean. You went to the colleges in Florida as well as flying your own planes. You're with all these different organizations, voluntary wise. Like
Mhm.
You are a very busy person.
Busy,
Very.
yes. Uh, but busy is a good thing, as I say.
Yes, and I know that you spoke about working with the International Space Station.
Hmm.
How do you feel about the fact that it's going to retire, with NASA, but still be, open for other organizations to go to use?
Well, I think that's good. That's a good use of an asset. The space station was only designed really for 5 years or so, and it's already been up there for over 20 years, and they keep recertifying it. I mean, as long as we can keep it up there, let's keep it up there. And even when we get to the point where NASA may not have use for it, if it's still in good shape, then keep it up and let's let private companies use it, international companies. We want to get as much use out of these things as we possibly can. So, but space is expensive. So as much use as we can get
Yeah.
out of these assets, we want to do it. Which reminds me of something else. Audience knows about the SpaceX and what they're doing with recovering their first stage rockets. The rockets
Hmm.
actually fly back and land on the recovery ship. So we are in a whole new era of reusability. So
Yeah.
that's good. We want to continue to do that.
Yes. I
Absolutely.
am. I spoke to someone who works at one of those private companies that's investing in the International Space Station as it retires. And one of the things they told me is in the future, they're going to be able to film parts of movies up there. So the next time there's a
Yes.
movie that's about space, about being in the International Space Station, it will really be actors and actresses on the International Space Station.
That is correct. Yeah, those negotiations are going on right now to actually send movie crews up to film movies on the space station. Which again, access to space is expanding.
Hmm.
We're going to get to the point very soon where people will not only film movies, but we'll have private citizens going into hotels up there and having a vacation in space. Somebody may do a honeymoon in orbit. May your space camp may actually be in space. You go
Wow.
stay for a week space camp and you're actually in space. It's all going to happen. It's going to happen, within certainly the lifetime of the audience members, some of the young ones. It'll probably happen in my lifetime too.
Yeah. Oh,
Yes, indeed.
that is very neat. I don't know as a teenager if I needed to be up there, but I'd probably be more willing as a teenager to go than I am now. Yeah.
Yes. Uh,
um
well, as it access improves and more people do it, you will probably become more willing to do it as it blossoms and becomes safer and more comfortable and more
yeah,
affordable.
yeah.
Yeah, you
Maybe.
uh,
Uh
maybe.
Flora says, did you ever see the UFO Black Knight satellite?
No, no. In fact, if you see a satellite, you too way too close. You don't ever want to see any satellites in orbit. We know they're there because they can be tracked on radar. And when I was in space, we were given maneuvers on occasion to stay away from satellites. So you never actually want to see a satellite in orbit. I think that was the question she was asking. I ever actually see one?
Yeah.
And the answer is no, not with the naked eye. You don't want to do that. Now, having said that, the satellites I did see are the satellites that we either took with us and deployed or we retrieved them. On my first flight, we went up and retrieved a satellite. It had been up there for a year. Launched from Japan, had been up there for a year. We went up, and one of our jobs was to grab it and bring it home, and we did that. So obviously, we saw those satellites, the ones we took with us, and the ones
Mhm.
that we retrieved. But satellites that had nothing to do with our mission, you want to stay well away from those. You don't even get close.
Yeah, because they'll cause damage to the shuttle, right? Which would cause a problem
Well, they
coming
could.
home.
Yeah, absolutely, certainly could.
Yes, yes. Okay, I can understand that. Stay far, far
Uh,
away from
that's
any
right.
shuttle that you see, right?
Yes.
And so, and the what do you think about all the images we're getting from the James Webb Telescope?
Oh, fantastic. Absolutely. Incredible, isn't it? Yeah, James Webb, of course, it's doing its job real well. It's a project like many others. It took a long time and a lot of money to get it up there and get it working, but it's actually expanding so much of our knowledge about the evolution of the universe. And for those who don't know, the James Webb is the follow-on to the Hubble Space
Mhm.
Telescope. Hubble was launched, I guess, 30 years ago, something like that. It's been there a long time. But James Webb Telescope has so many more capabilities to look at images from space that Hubble can't see. So what we're getting back from space is amazing. And because it's so beautiful, but it's amazing because it gives us a glimpse into the past and it lets us understand how the earth and how the solar system is evolving. If we understand how it's evolving, then we understand better how to take care of it. So everything we learn from space, including from the space telescopes, really benefits life here on Earth. It helps us to know how to take care of our Earth because we know how it's going to evolve. So again, I'm really, really excited about James Webb is working so well. I'm not an astrophysicist. That's not my specialty, but I am fascinated by what we see coming from James Webb, and I'm elated to know it's working so well.
Yes. Well, I mean, I'm an animal biologist, so I know nothing about space, but I am very intrigued about the photos we're seeing, all the imagery we're seeing, as well as the imagery we're getting from Mars, from the rover, and this,
Yes,
to see that, to see what's actually out there is
absolutely.
pretty cool. It's pretty amazing.
Yes, it is. It certainly is. And there's so much out there that we haven't even tapped, even with Webb looking so many light years and millions of light years out, we still have all this, we're just scratching the surface of space exploration. There's just so
Yes.
much more that we aren't even close to learning just yet. We're taking baby steps.
Yes, absolutely. And so, as we are getting towards the end of this hour, um, I do want to ask. I know that you fly planes. That's your hobby outside of the work that you do. But what else do you do for fun or relax, like outside of STEM? What is something that you enjoy?
Well, I was playing a lot of music. And I said was because since COVID, just into COVID, I sort of backed away from it. But for the last 25 or 30 years, remember I said I was professor of music? So I actually directed the advanced jazz ensemble at our university. And not only did I direct them, but I played with the group and I wrote and arranged music. And then I played with my own group in town, the Winston Scott Cosmic Jazz Ensemble. So the music is a hobby. For a lot of years, I did martial arts. I was heavily involved in Shotokan karate. But right now, the latest thing I've taken up is tennis. I am a new tennis player. So I'm enjoying that very much, trying to develop my tennis skills. And I'm playing in a tennis league right now. And I've been getting killed. But, but I'm enjoying it. I'm learning how to play. And it's a good, fast sport that I'm enjoying very much. So there's no shortage of activities for Winston Scott to do. I tell you.
I'm gonna have to look up the Winston Scott Cosmos Jazz
Cosmic.
Ensemble. I'm gonna look that up and maybe play it at the end of this podcast as I put it out there. That's
Well, look,
amazing.
I have to look that up or the Jazz Syndicate, one or the other.
The Jazz Syndicate. Okay.
Syndicate.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
You
I
take
want
one
to.
else some Jazz Syndicate videos.
Okay. All right. I got two more questions for you.
Sure.
So, all right, one question, two questions. Anywho, the first one is I know that you go by Win. Can you tell us about your nickname, Win?
Actually, that only my wife is the main person that calls me Win. Probably mostly everybody else doesn't, but that's the name she gave me from short for Winston, obviously. So that's kind of an unofficial her pet name for Winston. That's pretty much it.
Okay, so one more question from the audience, which is with all the experiments of growing plants in space, is there any success? We don't hear about it much.
Yeah, actually there is. And we actually grew plants in space on my second space flight. We took a plant called Brassica, which is and the reason we took it is because it germinates and grows very, very rapidly in space. While we were growing the plant in space, scientists were growing an identical plant on Earth. And obviously, they wanted to compare our plants to their plants to determine if there are any difference. Now, that's a long time ago. But we've gone so far now that astronauts have actually grown plants and eaten some of the plants in space. They've grown some radishes, I believe, and some tomatoes and some of the others. And the idea, obviously, is that if we're going to live long term in space, we need to be able to grow our own food. So the answer is yes, we've had some successes. We can actually grow plants in space. There are experiments going on right now for growing plants in moon soil, and we don't have any soil yet from Mars yet. But the idea, obviously, is to learn how to live off the land, and we're making very good progress because we've actually grown plants in space and actually eaten those plants. We didn't eat ours, but they've actually eaten
Yeah.
lettuce, radishes, and things that they've grown in space. So yes, we're making progress in that respect. Some interesting things about growing plants in space. When you grow plants on Earth, obviously the plant is in the ground. The roots go down, the plant grows up. But in reality, the roots will go wherever the nutrients are located. So in space, if you want to package the plant appropriately in a small area, you can have the nutrients maybe to the side of the plant, and the root will grow to where the nutrients are. The plant grows in the direction of the light source. So again, you can package your plant in a way that doesn't require as much real estate as growing plants on Earth. Also, plants respond to different frequencies of light. So if a plant responds to a particular frequency, you can actually nurture that plant with light while you're asleep, because your human eyes might not see that light, but the plant is getting its nurturing. So there are all kinds of things that we learn about growing plants in space that will help us to live up there that are different than growing plants here on Earth. Really interesting stuff.
Yeah, and I will add to that NASA puts a lot of information out. You just actually got to go look for it. That's the
Absolutely.
hard part is,
Yes.
we don't hear much about it because unfortunately STEM isn't as cool, as sports or entertainment, but it's there. The information
It's
is
there.
there. And there's a
Yeah.
challenge right now for schools called Plant the Moon, which
Yes.
is, how do we plant the moon? Can you figure
Mhm.
it out as a student? So there are things out there and information out there. You just kind of got to go look for it. That's the
Absolutely.
issue.
That's right. Very true.
um, yeah, and so actually, so I love your name of your ensemble. As we close, is there any last thing you want to say to the audience as we close out the hour?
The only thing I would say to audience is what I like to say to all my audiences is that there's nothing that anybody in the audience can't do if they put their mind to it. People used to tell us that, people say that, and it may sound trite and it may sound cliche-ish, but it's true. Everybody has a destiny. Everybody has a miraculous destiny that's for them. The key is that each person in the audience needs to find whatever their destiny is and pursue that. Part of the problem we have in our school or in our communities is that people spend too much time chasing somebody else's destiny. Everybody in the Black community wants to be an athlete. Everybody wants to be a movie star, rapper, musician. Somebody's destiny may be to be a doctor or a physicist or a historian or a dancer or a writer or a nurse or a philosopher, whatever. So if you can get in touch with your destiny and follow it, then there's no limit to how high you can go. Everybody within the sound of my voice has a special destiny for them. Find your destiny, go towards it. Don't let anyone discourage you, and I guarantee you will reach incredible heights.
That is amazing. Thank you so much for spending your evening with me. Thank you, everyone who asked questions and put things in the chat. Tamara calls you Black Excellence, which I agree. And
But
I appreciate everyone and everything for joining us tonight.
thank you all so very, very much. It's been a pleasure. I wish everybody in the audience good luck.